Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel. And if you've spent a second here, you will know that I'm on a mission to give you everything you need to be successful with your business. And as far as I know, as far as I'm aware, the only way for you to be more successful with your business is to be more successful with your sales and your marketing. So I'm here giving you everything I know through the series. We bring you the marketing news every other week. And then what happens is I bring in anyone I can find with relevant experience that might be useful to you in being more successful with your business. Now, you can support us in this effort simply by watching the video through, taking some value from it, implementing something, and being more successful with your marketing. And if you could like and subscribe and share and do all of those good things, then that would be enormously useful. So, today's guest is a computer studies graduate with marketing experience going all the way back to 2004 when he was a web developer. Since then, he has led a number of marketing type companies, including BFG, LAS Design, and Young Cow. He is currently director with All Saints Action, a network, a charity improving the quality of life for people in the All Saints area of Wolverhampton. He is director and visionary marketing coach of his business, Business Owner Elevation. And according to his professional LinkedIn headline, he helps coaches and consultants to generate $15,000 per month in 60 days, which is an extraordinarily bold claim. Today's guest is Leon Streete. And he's nodding.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Martin.
You are very welcome. Very welcome. So you're nodding. You stand by that claim, do you?
100%. I've done it many times, so it's a claim I can put out there because I've done it.
Okay, good. All right, good. Well, we're going to test that.
Good.
So the thing is, I'll tell you where I'm coming from is... should I be telling you where I'm coming from? Yeah, let me tell you where I'm coming from.
Cool.
Where I'm coming from is, I think, for all the work I've done in sales and marketing, I think there's issues with sales and marketing. I think people don't understand marketing. I think they don't understand business. I don't think they understand that being in business is just an exercise in having customers profitably. And they don't seem to understand that the way you have customers profitably is by doing really effective sales and marketing. That's kind of what I'm trying to do here. And then when the penny does drop that they need effective marketing in their business, then they go out into the market and they get robbed by people who purport to be marketing people, but actually don't do anything very much. They just take people's marketing budget. That's where I'm kind of coming from. The reason I'm saying this is, of all the people I've spoken to so far, you are leading with the strongest proposition. What do I want to say to you, man? What I want to say is, like, you're leading with the biggest promise. Let's go with that. Okay. So generating $15,000 a month within 60 days, that's a big promise. So that for me is the closest. This is the closest I've come, I think. I'm not calling you a robber or anything like, but it's the closest. Like, that's the kind of proposition that those kinds of people lead with. So that's why I'm really interested to have this conversation, man. I'm really interested because I know it's a really interesting market that you play in, and you know you're doing really well for people. So I'm really interested to understand it. So because I'm talking too much, because I'm an idiot. But where I've got to with marketing is it's really an exercise in understanding your very particular situation and understanding exactly what it is that you want to achieve and your particular market and your particular products and all those kinds of things. So for me, I shy away from making those really bold promises. So I'm interested to hear from you, how come you are so comfortable to do that? And I think I know why, but, you know, that's what I'm really interested to know.
Yeah, so, I think they're great questions, but if you finish off, if there's something else you want to add.
Get it all off my chest. Very often this is like therapy. Sometimes it's therapy for the people I'm speaking to. Sometimes it's therapy for me. What was the last thing I wanted to say? You know there's only 5 questions. So the questions are, how are you qualified to talk to us about... we don't even know what your specialist subject is really. Is your specialist
Mm.
subject
It's
um,
marketing strategy. It's
ma-
marketing strategy.
marketing strategy? And is this
Yeah.
exclusively for coaches and consultants?
Yes.
Yes.
However, I will say yes because you'll understand as we get into this interview more. All of the principles that I talk about work in business full stop. Yeah. The only places where I would say that there are adjustments you have to make mainly around business models when you go into things like e-commerce. So I tend to stick with service based businesses, which predominantly for my niche, it's coaches and consultants who run their business online.
Okay, super cool. So there's only 5 questions. Question one:
Mhm.
how are you qualified to talk to us about marketing strategy for coaches and consultants? Okay, so
Mhm.
let's make it very specific.
Uh-huh.
The second question is, who do you work with? How do you add value to their lives? We've already got quite a good
Mhm.
sense of that, I think. The
Mhm.
third question is, what is your recommendation for anyone, for a coach or a consultant who wants to get better with their marketing? The
Mhm.
fourth question is, what should people read? And the fifth question is, who can you throw under the bus who might endure at least, or maybe even enjoy to have a conversation like this with me? So those are the 5 questions. So let's go with
Mhm.
question number one. How are you
Mhm.
qualified to talk to us about marketing strategy for coaches and consultants?
That's a great question. I'm going to take you back to a meeting I had with one of the first clients that I got to 7 figures from a campaign that we ran together. And I'm going to take you back to the meeting of me not even doing a million. However, the client asking me if it was possible to do a million. And I'm sat there having been in business since 1997. I set up my first website when I was 17. So I was born in 1980. In 2004, I graduated from university and I took my hobby of creating websites and I'd attracted a few cool clients whilst doing higher education than university. And I took it to, a business because I just graduated from uni. I wasn't in pursuit of any particular job. I was just happy that I'd finished uni, to be honest. And I just thought, let me take this business to the next level. Within 3 weeks, I got offered a contract at the university that I was at. And this is 2004, but I'm gonna fast forward you to this meeting with this client. So they're a home improvement company. So they offer services, mainly double glazing, conservatories, extensions to homes, that kind of stuff. And I walk into this meeting with Paul. He's the sales director at the time. Now he actually runs and owns the whole business. Uh, I sit down with him. He gets my details from a referral. I don't even know who it was many years ago. So I'm sat down with him. I walk in. He's suited as a sales director would be. Very welcoming, very charming, very direct, very dominant, but in a really nice way. Dominant, knowing how to be decisive, I would say, not dominant as in making somebody feel inferior or small. Within 10 to 15 minutes, I just closed the sale for like £4,000, which is about $5,000. And at the time, it was just for a website. And so I run this marketing company and, I just land this 4K sale. And it was the fastest sale I'd ever done at that level, like £4,000. I'd sold higher, but it was the fastest. I was so used to presenting and pitching and doing all this other stuff. But anyway, I start working with One Boom Windows. That's the name of the company. And over the course of about 18 months to 2 years, I get familiar with the company. They want to find out more about marketing and so on. And I help them with a bit of this. We do paid advertising on Google. We do some search engine optimization. So my team's busy. I'm busy. We're getting results and the relationship is building. Then we get to this point and it's kind of like a milestone. And it's like, Leon, we're really happy with everything that you're doing, but we want to go to the next level. Can you take us there? So based on my experience and everything that I'd done up until that point, Martin, I was like, I know what's possible now because I've been working with this company for 2 years. I understand their business model. I understand their products. I understand their pricing. I understand their profit margin. And I know how many results we need to get in order to hit this next level. So I say, yeah, we can add £1 million within 12 months, another bold claim. At this time, I am filled with imposter syndrome because I know it's possible, but I've never done it before, Martin. However, I've got a track record with them over the past 2 years of we've attracted leads here, we've attracted some sales, but nothing like direct because all they've asked me to do is just deliver as a service provider, let's say. But now he's turned to me and asking me my recommendation. And so this company at the time does £2.8 million in revenue. And I'm sat there thinking, I know this stuff. I know marketing, and I'm going to get on to the point of what qualifies me. In 1997, when I set up a website, I set it up because I'd been DJing for 2 years since I was 15. I used to play 12-inch vinyl, drum and bass. And I set up a website because I wanted more people to hear me DJ. I wanted more people in my local city to know who I was. So actually, I started DJing in 1994. In 1995, I got a spot on a pirate radio station. So this is how my reach started to grow and me think about audience. So anyway, I'm sat here with Paul, and I'm thinking, you know what, I can do this. I know it needs to happen. And he says to me, so what's possible? And I say, look, we can do 1 million in 12 months. Here's what's got to happen. And he says, okay, what's the price? And I said, I need to go away because there's a couple of things I need to discuss. We can't do a quick deal like we've done in previous times. So I go back, I do a quick bit of research, ask a couple of peers, people who I know, and like really just to check in on myself. Like I already know what the numbers need to be. So I go back to him like a day later, sit down, like, here's the deal, £20,000. So we went from 4 to 10 to 20. That was like the third contract that I had with them. And he says, okay. And so to cut a long story short, we record 3 key videos. We have 2 guides, which are lead magnets that we give away. We blanket the home city of where I live in Wolverhampton with their 3 value adding videos that push people to a buyer's guide for windows or conservatories. So instead of your usual double glazing, buy one, get one free, we're adding value. In the guide, we talk about the 10 mistakes to avoid when getting double glazing, what questions you should be asking, and really just add value. So anyway, people start coming into the showroom. We're tired of seeing your ads, so we want to know what you're about. They keep seeing the videos. 12 months later, they do over £1 million in extra sales just because of them being top of mind and putting value out as opposed to discount promotion. So I flip it on its head. So what qualifies me and what qualifies anybody? Well, the first thing is you've got to have belief in yourself, because at some point you're going to be a beginner, you're going to be an amateur, and you're not going to be able to make claims, and to some people, whether you're selling on your belief, and whenever I sold on my belief, I always stuck to my integrity. Look, if I fail, then I'm going to be honest and open up about my failure. I'm not going to hide away from it. And I don't know what it is. Perhaps it's part of how I was brought up, Martin, but I would always kind of go out on my shield, if that makes sense. And I learned it because my grandparents, like my mother's and my father's parents, they were very traditional. Like my mother's father was a World War II veteran, and he would always teach me about, looking after my mom, looking after the family, and just being good with manners. My father's parents were from Jamaica, so a mixed race. They were very traditional, discipline, hard work. And so that was always in me. So the claims, like you said, when there are big claims, it's like, can you really back it up? At that point, I couldn't with Paul, but I had such a strong belief because I had a bit of a track record with them. I understood them. And like, the biggest thing I would say to you is that anybody listening, coach, consultant, service-based business owner, is like, if you don't pull the trigger and fail, I'm not saying it's so you always win, because I've had a lot of failures, you'll never know. And so what qualifies what qualifies me is that first, you've just got to take a chance on yourself and just believe, but you can't take a chance and then stop believing part way through. You just got to follow through regardless of what happens. And for me, it was amazing, because I truly believed it was really about taking things and just continuing. There was times where Paul was coming back to me saying, hey, can we push the budget down because we're not doing so well here? And I'd be like, no, we got to keep it. And the budget wasn't even high that we're running the ads on. And then as things started to build momentum, he was like, can we turn the budget up now, Leon? I'm seeing the people coming. I'm like, yeah. And so there were different signs, there were different performance indicators along the way. And so I did it. And when I did 1 million, it was just kind of like, I felt like, wow, that's amazing. I really have something in me. I have that stuff in me that can get somebody's message out there. And then I started to do it with other people. And then what really locked in my knowledge is this book here. I wrote this in 2018. Yeah. And this was a culmination of all my knowledge, Martin. So it's called More Leads, More Clients. And the subtitle is the 10-Step Marketing Manifesto to Becoming One of the Most Valued and Highly Paid Coaches in Your Industry. And this is the final piece of qualifying. and what qualifies me. When I wrote the book, my intention was to put value out into the market where it was based on principles that I knew worked, regardless of the technology or the conversion mechanism you're using. And what I understood and found myself in going through the writing process is me moving away from theory to, can I prove it? Do I have an example? Do I have experience in this field? And so when I wrote the book, it took me on a journey of transformation to actually 100% with integrity say, have I proven this to be true, or am I just regurgitating theory, which a lot of people do, and sometimes that's where you got to start. But with the book, I was able to just pull back from my experience of marketing from 1995 to landing my spot on that pirate radio, right the way through to locking in DJing events with promoters with this, teenage kid who wanted to DJ at these over 18 clubs at 17, landing on record label promotion and lists. So they would send me records 3-6 months ahead of release dates because of the letters I was sending them. What I didn't realize at the time, these were sales letters. I was sending them marketing material. What's that? Social proof. So when I got booked, I would keep flyers. I would send that through to people. And then when people saw my website from 1997, it just built. And then the culmination, I guess, was the campaign with Paul at 11 Windows. And let's kind of fast track us back to the book now. It's like the book couldn't have been released without me having integrity in what I do. So I've taken that knowledge and I've helped 5 people now do 7 figures, including Paul. I've helped multiple people do 6 figures. One of my greatest success stories is Pin, who runs a driving school, another service-based / trainer business in my city. He's gone from him in his business, just him on his own, to 34 drivers in his driving school. His YouTube channel has 450,000 subscribers. His TikTok channel profile has 1 million followers. He generates, from his online course, has generated £1 million in 3 years. He has a property portfolio of around £2 million, and he just bought a Lamborghini Urus, the 4x4. And I'm his external marketing director.
I don't know about Lamborghinis myself. I really don't.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Cool. All right. So much there. There is something about marketing people, like, because I think you're the 56th or the 57th person that I've spoken to. There is a common theme about being performers. So they're actors, they're stand-up comedians, they're in bands, they're DJs. And I think, and so many of the people I speak to, like yourself, are speakers, So I think there is something performative about marketing. And I think it's exactly what you're alluding to, is you have to, I mean, this sounds lame, but it's not. You have to keep the show going until the show is going. Do you know what I mean? Like, 100%. It's always got to be an investment of energy and money, but also time. There's no switch that you can flick where it just happens. And until it's happening, you've got to keep it happening. So that's really interesting to me, that idea that you were a performer, you marketed yourself, you became a marketer. And that's interesting. So what do you think about that idea? Mm-hmm. Is it performative marketing?
You know what? I think here's what I learned in being a DJ. And like at 15, I remember specifically because the pirate radio station that I was on, they were holding events at nightclubs, and I was only 15. So there was a lot, obviously the radio I was on, there was a lot of adults DJs, over 18. And so they were holding events, running promotions. And I, as a DJ of the radio station, had to also promote these events, and it was kind of like, you're part of the deal of being a radio DJ, you help out with promotions. And so I learned to communicate with people. I learned, even at 15, like, approach people perhaps like who I knew who were older than me from youth club or wherever. I met people at the record shops as well. And I would talk to them about the event. Hey, do you know this event's coming up? It's going to be amazing. You should be there. And what I realized is that as a marketer, it's about being able to connect with people. And it's about creativity. That's what I think it is. Because the creativity comes in creating a message. The creativity comes in when your message fails like 50 or 100 times, still being in it to want to create more, regardless of what's happened. And I think when you combine the two, your ability to connect with people and create, and there's the word authority, and the first part of the word is author, right? And I,
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that's what it is. The belief part, which is what I said to you, when I was questioned, I questioned myself, and Paul questioned me, what's possible, and I said, oh, we could do a million. You've got to have belief, like you say, over time. Even when the results aren't happening, you're learning something. You've got to take away something, and you've got to course correct. And over time, I've just learned to course correct faster, and that's part of the skill you develop. And so for me, I think it's creativity and connecting with human beings. Because for me, marketing is about psychology. Because the more you understand your audience from a place of empathy, the more you win.
Okay, so do I now. um, so there's something in that as well that I think is going out of fashion. I don't know if it's going out of fashion because I'm not young, so I don't know.
Mm,
But lots of the people I say, like at the beginning, it's always like, and there's 50 something people now, and on average, it's 20 years experience. And so
mhm.
there's 1,000 years of experience in these videos.
Yeah,
It's really quite a
yeah.
cool thing. But the way I started, like around that time, I just graduated university and I went into like boiler room type sales situations in
Yeah, yeah.
London, and I was hammering the phones 130 times a day. Selling advertising is what I was doing.
Hmm.
And that's where I learned about marketing, because I was doing
Yeah.
exactly that. I was engaging with the market. Like literally, if it was 120 people a day I was trying for, let's say I spoke to 30 people a day,
Mm.
150 people a week, it's 600 people a month, it's whatever that is, 6,000 people a year. I was talking to the market. I was having an actual conversation. I was engaging with people. And I wonder if people still have the opportunity to do that, like young people now, or are they sitting behind LinkedIn driving like LinkedIn bots or emails or whatever it is? So there's a gap in that engagement where people
Yeah.
don't actually learn that thing, how to engage with people. Because if you're making 120 calls a day, like you learn pretty quickly how to gracefully get
Hmm.
yourself out of a situation.
Yeah.
If somebody is being a complete, that
Yeah.
word, you know how to extricate yourself. Whereas
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, people who are starting out now are having that opportunity, firstly, to understand markets because they're engaging with them all the time. Second, and then how to conduct yourself in that relationship.
Hmm.
I don't know what you think. Is that,
Yeah, I would agree to some extent. As you were speaking, I was thinking about my son. My son's 15, and then I was thinking about clients and some of the things that I witness with clients. And I don't think it's just the young, but however, there is an issue with obviously the youth of today. They're behind not just the screen, they're behind this. Yeah,
yes,
and because of that, there's a barrier, and the barrier is it's being progressed as an agenda more than we realize. So, for instance, everybody knows about Meta, Facebook, the new name, and the metaverse, right?
yeah,
And like that's again, it's disconnecting us even more.
yes,
And the biggest thing for me is that people aren't connecting the way you said you used to hammer the phone lines. That's amazing because you had to connect with people. I was doing it unbeknownst at 15 by connecting to people to invite them to an event that I was just helping to promote because I was part of this radio station, and then it kind of grew from there where I was running my own promotions with partners and different things like that. And I think there is definitely a disconnect. When I first set up my first business, which was LAS Designers, my first web design company, I went to the high street and I knocked on doors. I went in and introduced myself, and I started speaking about websites and marketing, and I just connected with people. I didn't have an appointment. I just go in there and just speak to people because I was hungry. I was just hungry. And I think now the barriers have created a psychological block for youngsters. And so I'm going to come back to why my son, like with my son, like fortunately for him, he has a father who's into personal development and growth and doesn't accept two ways about it. And so with him, I pick up on how he speaks. I pick up on his clarity. I pick up on, does he go to meet his friends? What is he doing with his girlfriend? As in, like, how does he communicate? Does he invite her out for activities? What is he doing with his personal life? Because he's not being brought up the way I was, as in I would be out on the park all day. I would come back for lunch and dinner as a boy. I would be playing with friends. I'd be playing with cousins. I would be connecting with human beings in a physical, one-on-one situation or one-to-many. Whereas I find the youth today, unless you have that personality trait, which it's in the minority, most are sat behind a computer screen or a phone screen, and they don't know it unconsciously. So, for instance, there was a couple of months ago, I said to my son, I was like, because I make sure that my children write their goals out every year, no matter how old they are, that they have a set of goals. And I make sure I hold them accountable. Not like crack the whip, but just like, how you getting on? Do you understand where you are? And I was speaking to my son. I said, so how far have you progressed? And he says, oh, I haven't really. And we were going through, and he'd done a couple actually, but he hadn't done as many as he perhaps would have liked. And I said, let's look at your phone screen time and look at what apps you spend the most time on. And he had a quick look, and then he realized like he was on his phone for like 30 hours in a week. And 10 of those hours was on TikTok, and some other stuff. And I was like, were you aware that you spent so much time on your phone? And he was like, I wasn't, Dad. And like I could tell just by the look on his face, because it was unconscious. It's an unconscious behavior, right? And so the biggest thing for me is I think there's a lot of people out there who don't have that, and the youngsters don't have it because of what their habits are now, what is the social norm, but it's not good for them. Yeah. And as a parent and as a marketer, like, we got to be aware to what's going on in the market. As a parent, if we want the best for our kids, then we have to step up our own standards and how we raise them. And that's one of the things that I'm always looking to improve as well. So coming back to my clients, the biggest thing about business owners on the kind of starting journey is that when they're looking at how do I connect to people, how do I make sure that what I'm putting out is right? And is there a barrier? Is there a disconnect with how we communicate with people? And psychologically, yes, because what I also experience is people who then question their message, not because they've never interacted with people. We're talking about adults now, 40 plus and so on. They've got to the point where they see so much success and they move into a place of FOMO, fear of missing out or fear of messing up, let's say. They even start questioning themselves as to whether or not they should post that video or that image or whatever it is. And I think that's the double-edged sword. I think we've got youngsters and younger business owners who are lost, and we got older ones who are questioning themselves because they're comparing themselves to perfection, which we all know it's just what people put out as the best side of them. They don't put the hard part out. And I think that's the real problem, Martin. I hope I've answered it, because I know I've kind of gone on a journey with that, but I think that's what's going on.
You have. No, you absolutely have. And I'm thinking, like, as a generation of marketers, like, how are they going to know? That's what being a marketer is engaging with a market. But I think you're right. As individuals, the world has changed. Like, I've cold called tens of thousands of people. Now, I don't cold call my dad. Like, I'll message him and say, you free for a chat? Do you know what I mean? It's like...
people hate if you call them.
I know. And the thing is about it is that there is this disconnect. Like, people aren't connected in the way that they used to be. And it's not just a barrier. It's like... It's not just a barrier, because it's like it keeps you in your space. Do you know what I mean? You don't even go out. It's not like there's something between you and the rest of the world. 100%. And the thing is, I know you're not supposed to say it, and I don't even know if it's relevant to say it now, but instances of anxiety and depression and self-harm and suicide are all climbing, and we're not actually even allowed to do the thing that would have happened to us. Like, someone would have said, get your shit together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
100%.
Someone would have said, like, I don't know who's saying this, we need more judgment in our society. If someone in our street, I grew up in a council estate, but if someone in our street was taking their kids to school in their pajamas, the community would let them know that wasn't cool. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now it's happening a lot. So the old mechanisms even aren't allowed. The old remedies, like, okay, so you're feeling stressed, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling whatever. There's only one solution, really, which is you buck up and you get out and you get on with it. Do you know what I mean? And through that process, you will get better. But we're not even allowed to do that anymore. It's not relevant to the conversation we're having now. It is relevant because I worry as a marketer to what extent we are contributing to this. Do you know what I mean? Or we
Yeah,
are
100%.
leveraging this, because that concerns me. So are we bad people, marketers?
Um, every industry or every vertical that you look at, there's good and bad, and there's the gray area of people in mediocrity. Yeah, let's call it what it is. And I don't think marketers are bad when they truly have a purpose. They truly have a vision, and they've got a real they've just got real mission behind them. I think that the problem is when you've got people who know how to manipulate a human being psychologically, and they do it without integrity. They do it without real value or anything behind them. And like you said earlier, they take money. They make claims and they just take money. And hey, I can show you how to generate 15,000 a month because I just sold 3 clients at 5K. But they haven't actually taught any real principles. They've used like tactics mixed with like low level strategy to simply show people that it's possible to sell, but it doesn't show a person how to replicate it for their mission, for their message, for their niche. And I think that's the problem for me. But I don't think marketers are bad people, because some of the greatest people we look at in history as heroes, as authorities or people that are worthy of our praise, they're marketers at the end of the day. You don't get to the levels of successes that we see in a lot of businesses. I'm not saying all, but a lot of businesses, without being the messenger, the marketer. I mean, look at Elon Musk. Yeah, the way he's gone about growing his businesses, he's created integrity through his products. When people doubted him, when the petrol industry rubbished him, yeah, and it's so well documented. It's amazing when his own heroes like your Neil Armstrongs and whoever else talked him down, rubbished him about his approach to either the car industry or space travel, space industry. And you look at this guy now, and he's an amazing marketer. He understood and understands now, especially the recent acquisition or the process of acquiring Twitter, what having integrity means, free speech, speaking your truth. And I think for me, there's always going to be instances of where we don't agree with people. However, with this cancel culture that exists because of social media instants and everything being now, we I think we don't understand what true debate means. I think we don't understand that we can disagree with people and still be cool with people, friends with people even. I think people look at it like, oh, am I being politically correct? Or, oh, can I say to them, get your shit together? Because you know what, like psychologically, there is a lot of things where people don't respond to the carrot, they respond to the stick. And there's a lot of times, like when I've been coached myself, where I need to kick up the ass, like, because nothing else is going to move me any further forward in where I am, because I'm so comfortable or I'm so unconscious to the behavior that I'm exhibiting, that I need somebody who can point that out to me and say, hey, Leon, you realize what's going on here, don't you? I'll be like, no. And I think we miss that in society. And as marketers, no. It's like anything, isn't it? You've just got to find the ones that you connect with, is probably the best way for me to say, Martin, who resonates with you, and we all know that we feel it mostly. Like we hear somebody, we see somebody. I've had people who question me, just like you mentioned earlier, it's a big claim, Leon. And then I've ended up a guest on their podcast. And that's come from, because I put something out on social media and they just think, oh, here's another typical 6-figure claim or whatever. But I have tons of proof to back up what I do, which is most people don't. And so they get so used to it, the fake marketers. And then like I said, I've had it where I've turned people into friends, into peers, I've been a guest on their podcast. So that's my answer.
Okay, cool. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it's really worrying. Like, I'm speaking to somebody in Australia on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and we had quite a big chat, like quite different from the 3-minute chat that you and I had. And he's like this and that and the other, and he's like, yeah, he knows the questions. He's like, yeah, and I'm really interested to hear from you about like what you're excited about the future. These Australians are have such amazing positive mental attitude.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now I'm struggling to think, because I really am worried about the future. I think what you're saying is right. People are so polarized. Like they
Mm-hmm.
either believe religiously this thing or they believe religiously that thing. And there is no discussion going on. And I
No.
like to think of myself being in the middle, but this is the second time I've said this today, people will make a comment like, oh, Elon Musk, Twitter, and then they'll immediately say something else. And I'll be like, oh, okay, I can't even have a conversation with you because you haven't thought about
Yeah.
this for a second. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And it's like
Yeah.
whether that's the war, whether that's COVID, whether that's whatever it
Mm.
is, people are just being spoon fed their
Yeah.
opinions. And that
Yeah.
also is marketing. I think, I say to people when I talk to them about sales, you've been selling your whole life. If you've ever motivated anyone to do something for you, that was a pitch. That was a
Yeah.
successful pitch. And if
Yeah.
you've ever tried to get someone to do something for you and they haven't done it, then that was a failure. You've been doing this
Mm.
all day, every day you walk around.
Yeah.
But it is kind of worrying, the state of society at the moment. Maybe the state of, I don't want to say the state of business, but that is kind of worrying. And I think that's digitalization which has done that. It's
Yeah. There's definitely. I think it is worrying. Like, part of my vision, and part of, I guess, what will allow that vision to happen through my mission is, the more I can educate coaches and consultants on how to actually market themselves, so there is alignment to their vision, there's alignment to their integrity, and their values. I think we create a better society. I was explaining this to my son. Like I said, he's only 15, but like, I really do believe entrepreneurs are the solution. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great people who do things from within organizations, public sector, private sector, and so on. But I think entrepreneurs are the people who can create those shifts in terms of what we need. But I think, at the same time, I think generally human beings, will come to a place where we'll create something great. I think there are worrying things, and I think it's also part of shifts in society of us realizing, we can't trust that narrative, or we can't buy into that. And I think as a society, we've kind of grown up to realize, like, there are agendas, there are other things at play here. And that's why I say, the people that you do resonate with, or you follow, or, you're really into, I think that's what people are looking for. They're looking for truth. They're looking for something that's believable. And, I can even say truth and say, what is truth? Because a story can change. I was watching this interview with Russell Brand the other day, and I think it's Brian Cox, the scientist, the British scientist, and he was saying, like, one of the greatest things about science is that it never stays the same. Science is about continually exploring and figuring out, is that true? Is that the right message? Is that the right formula? Is that the right thing? And questioning the results, questioning, can it be done better? And I think that's also true of, society and messaging and marketing. Like, it may be true for now, and that message may evolve. But what happens is, and what I think is, it's small-mindedness, but we can't avoid that because people have to be personally educated in order to spot that. But the point I was going to get to is that when things change, people want to go back to, oh, but you said this, oh, but it was like that. And what they don't realize is that there is evolution in messaging, there's evolution in society, there's evolution in us. Like, every day we get older, it's not like we're the same. People
yeah.
want to claim to be the same, and I think that's it. People just want to be black and white, and actually they don't understand that actually we're very dynamic as a society, as humans. And kind of bringing it back to marketing, I think that's where the essence is. It's people who understand that, and you feel that about their message, because it isn't just the kind of tactics or the fly-by-night successes or the duping or the scamming. It's like you feel it when you understand and see somebody who's got results that can speak from that place. And that's what I said about my book. It was like, I couldn't just publish something that was just theory. Like, I had to experience it. And so I just pulled everything forward. I pulled out stories that I didn't realize, that, oh yeah, that's how I got to this. And, that's how my mentors or coaches helped me. And for me, that's what I think, really what we're in. It's just it's a big mix, isn't it?
It is just a big mix. And I think you're 100% right. Like, so you might say, like, society, like, the narrative might be that Trump went to war with the truth when he started telling the media that they were fake news. But I
Yeah.
think what you're saying is right. There was never, there is never any truth. Do you know what I mean? There's only ever perspective, and there is
Exactly.
only ever, change is the human condition. So it's
Hmm.
constantly changing. And so I
Yeah.
think now, like, have you heard of this VUCA idea or VUCA idea? So they
No, I
explain
haven't.
times like these as volatile, uncertain, complex, and the last one is A, ambiguous.
Okay.
And this is how, like, they justify training. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to teach dynamism. But it seems to me that people are just so solid in this position or this position that they can't be flexible.
Yeah.
And you're right that the truth is it's about a moment in time that thing might have been
Yeah.
truth. So what occurred to me recently is very often you'll go to a website and there won't be a date on the website. Now, when I was a kid, the first thing we were taught to do in the top right-hand corner of the page is
Put the
write the
date.
date. Because what you're saying might be true today. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean it's going to be true tomorrow or the next day
Mm.
or whatever it is. So it just blows my mind that like basic mechanisms of staying sane have just gone out of the window, it feels.
Yeah. But we removed dates to make sure our content was search engine optimized and not dated.
Exactly. So how much of what we're doing is just about feeding the algorithm at the
Exactly.
cost of society? Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
insane. It is insane. And there was something else. Yeah. So the positive is, check this segue, man. Check
Mm.
this. The positive is people are looking for leadership and they need
Yeah.
leadership like they've never done before. And I would
Mm.
imagine that brings us to your coaches and your consultants.
Yeah.
That was a gem,
Absolutely.
wasn't it? How smooth was
It
that?
was. I loved it. This guy's a smooth operator. I can tell he's done this a few times already.
So,
So,
so the good news is, do you want the good news?
go for it.
I believe you are qualified to talk to us about marketing strategy for coaches and consultants. So, question
Good.
number one, you've passed. Well done, you. Okay,
Good.
so question number two is who do you work with? How do you add value to their lives?
I work with mostly established coaches and consultants, and I say mostly established because if a person's been in business for a year, they've gone through the realization that I have this amazing dream, but they're also brought down to reality. I've got to do some work here. I've actually got to do some work to get clients because if I'm going to put food on the table and have a roof over my head, I can't be lost in I'll start when it's perfect or the other things that other people love to kind of imagine that their business is going to be this overnight success. Um, the reason why I work with coaches and consultants who market their business online is because that's where I've come from. So whilst I had marketing agencies, then I was coached, and then I moved into becoming a marketing coach, call myself a visionary marketing coach for the past 7 years. I understand where they're at. It's similar to me writing and publishing my book. It was like I did it from a place of experience, and so with coaches, I understand where they're at. And to be honest with you, Martin, a lot of the things that they're struggling with are not to do with marketing. Don't get me wrong, there's a great segment of what they need to implement into their business systems to have a marketing system and sales system. But when you get to the crux of it, a lot of it is to do with their own personal misbehaviors, their personal fears, their anxiety around how they'll be judged, how they'll be criticized, how they'll be rejected. And I get it and I understand it. And I also understand how to show people the opposite of what they're thinking when they come from a place of negativeness. And look, some people would say, I'd never be that. But there are some people who are stuck at 5 to 10K right now and they can't see how to move beyond it because all they've done is taken up their fears to a certain level, but they haven't broken through the ceiling to go to that next milestone. And so those are the people that I work with. Most of them tend to be business, life coaches, transformation coaches. It's people who help other people because their skill is to communicate that message, to communicate that gift, that skill, however they help their niche. What I show them is just how to market it by putting a megaphone on their voice.
Cool. Excellent. Good. So this market
Mm-hmm.
is, I've not worked in this market myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that it is thought to be a good market. Coaches understand the idea of self-investment. They understand the value of having a positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
They are, what's the word? not necessarily ambitious, but they are driven. You know, they will have goals, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
So this is thought to be a good market. What do you think?
You know, as I've gone through marketing and then, looked at some of the godfathers of marketing, your Jay Abrahams, your Chet Holmes, Eugene Schwartz, um, a good market is a market where people are already buying. Yeah.
Ah,
And it's always true. You don't go into a market and think, you know what, I'm going to innovate and go where nobody's ever heard of this product and just step into it. And especially if you're a startup, like, 1 to 3 years, that's going to be hard. Your best thing to get momentum, your best approach, your best strategy is to go where people are already buying, and you got to look for the gaps. And so for me, it is a good market. However, there's a lot of people who are way underperforming and broke. And it's because they don't understand how to do marketing. They understand how to be a coach, how to create transformation, how to get results when they do get a client. But they have, I would say, they have a skewed perspective of what marketing and sales is. And there are two different systems in your business. And unfortunately, most people get caught up into the emotions that I shared with you earlier. It's about fear of judgment, fear of criticism, fear of making a bold claim, and getting found out. And for me, that's what holds a lot of business owners back. It isn't market forces, market conditions, and are we on the brink of a recession, or are we actually already in a recession? Inflation sky high, fuel prices, all these different things. No, it's your ability to follow through regardless, like you said earlier, over time, and just keep going. And there is one caveat to that. You can't keep going where your results aren't getting any better. You must seek help, whether it's a book, whether it's a YouTube video, whether it's a mentor. You must, because you can't be in a place where you're stuck in your own echo chamber. And there's a great quote that I use all the time. It's from Les Brown. I don't know where it actually comes from, but Les Brown uses it a lot. And he says, when you're in the frame, you can't see the picture.
brilliant. I like that because I like photography.
There you go.
Right. So there's two things. 100% agree with you about this thing, like Dragon's Den. Does anyone still watch Dragon's Den? Like, for them,
I don't watch it. I stopped watching TV like over 6 years ago, but it's still on.
yeah, yeah. But the thing is, I thought it was great in the noughties when I was starting my business, and I thought it was amazing. But it quickly transpires that for them, a business that's investable has to have a completely new and unique idea. It can't be replicable. There can't be any competition, all these things. This is, for me, a fallacy. What I tell people is if nobody's making making money, doing what you are planning to do in 2022, that has to be the best indicator there is that it's going to be really difficult, if not impossible, to make money doing that. There is so little room left for innovation, really.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you think like it is such a brilliant idea that you should go in anyway, the first job is you've got to educate the entire market that this thing's available. Do you know what I mean? Or this problem exists, or whatever it is.
The innovation curve.
Yes. And yes, so 100% agree with that. The other thing is persistence. Like, so many people should just stop. They should just stop like right now. Do you know what I mean? If it's not working and it's really, and you're suffering, and now there's some weird psychology at play here, because sometimes people will say to me, oh, before you drive a car, you have to have a driving test, but you can drive a business without a driving test. The way that analogy really works for me is if you're in a car and it starts to feel a bit iffy, you pull over and you have somebody check it out. Do you know what I mean? Whereas in a business, it's exactly the opposite. Like, if it starts to feel shit, people just push the pedal to the metal and they just go hell for leather. And they just think if they can go fast enough, then it will be okay. Yeah, I also did that for 9 years. So what's the point about this? I see myself as Toto out of the Wizard of Oz. Yeah. Because it seems to me like everything everybody believes about marketing is exactly the opposite to what's true. So the persistence thing is not useful. Like, if it feels shit, it's shit. Get it looked at or stop doing it, ideally.
Yeah.
The what was the other thing? The originality, the innovation thing. It's
Hmm.
not real. Find a market where people are spending money, roll your sleeves up and compete. Do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
easier. Price, like everyone thinks if they were the cheapest, they would be selling much more. It's not
No.
true. Like actually, the ones who sell the most are the people who charge the most. But you can almost go through every aspect of marketing, and it's almost like exactly the opposite of what people think is true. So that's why I feel like Toto. I'm pulling down the curtain and exposing the Wizard of Oz, just turning the machine. The question for you is,
Yeah.
I can see how, if you do the sensible thing, which you're doing, which is be laser focused on a particular niche,
Yeah.
then you can get to a situation where you just understand the levers that you need to pull to generate the kind of results that these people
Exactly.
that you are offering to these people. Um, so now you can tell us how you do it.
Good. It's a great analogy. I love that actually, because you're right. I do look for a specific type of person, niche that I can help, because the way that anybody can do this is the more focused on a niche you are, the more you understand what's going on in their life and business. And this is important for you to be able to generate whatever results based on whatever promise that you have. And the way that I do it is I get to the point where I understand two key parts of my niche. So just looking at my camera, there we are.
Yeah.
Demographics, number one. So demographics are, what are the logical attributes that make up your audience: age, location, language, personal income, business revenue, what books and movies perhaps they've watched, they're into, come across as part of their industry or what they do. Family, set up, whether they got children, no children, married, all those kind of different things. And then you got the real juicy ones, psychographics. Psychologically, what are the reasons why they're going to buy or not buy from you? And a lot of the times people miss this part. And so for me, I have a very simple exercise of where, when you look at your niche and you've identified all the demographics, start to look at what are the frustrations, fears, wants, and aspirations. And the reason why I'm doing this kind of motion here is because if you draw a line down a sheet of paper through the middle and a line across the middle horizontally, you end up with 4 quadrants. List all your frustrations, list all the fears in the bottom left, top right, wants, bottom right, aspirations. And this is your first steps to understanding what your content needs to be about. Yeah, most people are looking for some gimmick. I'm going to go on TikTok, I'm going to go on Insta Reels and create some music video and point here and do all this crazy shit. That's not what's going to get you clients. What's going to get you clients is understanding from a place of empathy, which I mentioned earlier. And what I then do is, once my clients map out their transformation bridge, frustrations, fears, wants, aspirations, because point A is everything on the left, point B is everything on the right where they want to be. Knowing your audience, even at this kind of early foundation level, that influences not only your message, but what your offer needs to say. And this is where most people go wrong. They think they have an offer because they have a product or service, but they haven't created the offer for the product or service. And so what I get my clients to do is take from the transformation bridge. Then I have a second exercise depending on the sophistication of your market. And this means to the degree that the market is aware of solutions to help them with the problem they have. We then do an exercise called the empathy map. And the empathy map is very simple. What are they seeing, hearing, feeling, experiencing, or witnessing in the market right now with the problem that they have? And you just list all of the answers to all of that. You take the transformation bridge and your empathy map, and now you construct your offer. Yeah, because now your offer directly aligns to the problem on all the symptoms of that problem. And this is where most people go wrong. And I have these 7 components of creating an offer. And one of the best things I can say to you guys is, your offer needs to have benefits. Yeah. And simply, here's how you create benefits. There's 3 types of benefits. You got functional, you got dimensionalized, and emotional. So you can't get emotional if you haven't identified the emotions in the first place, which is why I do transformation bridge and empathy map. So functional is kind of features and advantages. Dimensionalized is paint a vivid picture of what life will be like once they experience what it is that you have in that benefit or your product or service for them. And the emotional is include the emotions they're going to feel or experience as part of that vivid dimensionalized benefit. Map your benefits to the objections that your niche are going to have when buying from you. And the obvious ones are time, money, need more information, it's failed in the past for me. Like, they're the first 4 that you can conquer and put in place. And if you take that, connect it to what your guarantee is. So have some type of risk reversal. And I have about 11 different types of guarantees that you can put in as a cultural consultant, and they all work. Um, and this is what's going to at least help get people to see when you start to put your marketing message out there and they come across your offer, they're going to see the difference. So anyway, that's the foundation piece. Like that's the part that you've got to have in your business model to actually understand what it is you're about to start marketing. Yeah. Now we can talk about the marketing aspect. So now you take your transformation bridge, and then I use something called the 6-week content rhythm, Martin. And it's so simple, it blows a lot of people's minds. So over a 6-week period, every week you take 1 week and you focus on one frustration or fear from your transformation bridge and one related want or aspiration. And each week you theme your content around that. That's it. So by the time you finish your 6 weeks, you have tackled the top 6 frustrations with related wants. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's a frustration or fear with related wants or aspiration. What's the advantage of this? Every time you cycle through your 6 weeks, yeah, you put content out on a Monday that is about changing the beliefs of whatever it is that you're focused on for that week. On a Tuesday, you offer a lead magnet, something that a person can raise their hand and say, I'm interested. On a Wednesday, you show social proof, like a testimonial, video, or image. On a Thursday, you do a walkthrough video of the thing you offered for free on the Tuesday. And on a Wednesday, you remind them, on a Friday, you remind them of the video you did on the Thursday. And so what actually happens is you build up mastery because you keep cycling through, you drop the topics or the posts that don't work, i.e. they're not getting engagements or getting you leads, and you keep cycling through. Why do you keep cycling through? Because your niche don't change. You adjust your niche as you get better and your message gets stronger, but this is what gets you to understand what's actually happening with your niche. And from this, it's so powerful because before you know it, you understand what frustrations trigger people, as in get you leads, get them to raise their hands, what posts get you clients. You take this knowledge and you put it into ads because it's already proven. And this is how you grow your business without having to put a lot of capital down initially. And then eventually, as you get momentum, you get cash into your business. Now you can scale up through ads and you start plugging your team into this system that I've just mentioned, very quick system. And this is what is working right now. So we're able to take people on a 6-week content rhythm cycle, and we move people into my clients' DMs. They have a script which I call confirmed by chat. So my clients know how to speak to prospects in a way that is easy, flowing, and fun. And it pre-sells the offer without any pricing. So people feel like they're just inquiring to find out more. But what they don't realize is that we've already sold them on the functional, dimensionalized, and emotional benefits. So they've already bought into what it is my clients offer. And then off the back of it, they move to a sales call. So now we're into the selling part, and they're able to close because they're not pushing. All they're simply doing is persuading based on the fact that the person already knows what the offer is. And so that's what's working right now. I had one client in March, a guy who was selling, I think the most he'd ever sold was about $4,000, and he did a £10,000 day in March. I've got another client. She's the same process. She does multiple 5 figures a month. She's a doctor in London, and she was not doing anywhere near that because her message was very logical, just like a doctor. There was no emotion. It was very cold. She used the same method, and she went from generating like £3,000 a month to like over 20,000 a month consistently. I've got other clients where Denise, she did $14,000 in 7 days just applying this method. I've got one client who joined me within 7 days, and this isn't a claim, it's just what actually happened. She did a 5K sale within 7 days just because she understood how to pre-sell the offer and speak to a person on a sales call. And when you start to look at it, Martin, this is why I understand like more about my clients, because I understand what's going to stop them before they get to the marketing. And when they're in marketing, what are they going to experience that's going to pull them back to their old bad habits of not marketing or selling in the right way? And that's what's working for me. I'm able to see beyond the logics of marketing and sales. And I understand psychologically what business owners, coaches, and consultants are actually going to trip themselves up from.
Wow. Okay, good. See, this. I think there is a perception in the world that this is all quite fluffy. Mm-hmm. Like if I was cynical, like my sister, she would say, well, if they're a life coach, they should sort out their life. Do you know what I mean? And So I understand that, and I understand that that lots of coaches have been taken for a ride, being sold a
100%.
promise. Like there have been quite big academies, supposedly, of people who have just been rinsed of quite a lot of money.
Mm.
And I think, well, I think because these people are occasionally seen to be fluffy. You know, they've got their head in the clouds. They're not
Yeah.
focused enough on their actual business. They're interested in transformation. You know, it's like get a proper job.
And I think there's a double-edged sword to that, and I know there is, because you know I've got coaches now. Like the biggest thing we can do as a human being to be the most successful we can be, to lead us towards our true potential. You know, people always say there's something about you, Martin. Like I can see the potential in what you can do. Yeah, but
No
to
one's ever said
actually,
that to me.
yeah, fair enough then. So you may have heard it said to somebody else. But the point that I'm getting to is, like, quite often we don't understand that to the point of being honest with ourselves to say, what, you know what, I did invest 10,000 or 20,000 with this academy, and I wasn't honest with myself. But here's the double-edged sword part. The academy didn't have somebody to call out the client, the coach who invested, on their bullshit. I do. And I don't say it like in a really like dominant position. I say it with love. I say it with the respect of, do you want me to be honest and open with you about what's actually stopping you? And when I have a person who's willing to be open and honest, because I've got enough experience doing this, like I understand what stops people. I've done it for 7 years now. And in my marketing businesses, I did it, but I didn't understand what I was doing at the time. But I soon found out with the clients who were success, because they listened to what I was saying, and then I started to spot the cues. But the point I want to get to is that we enroll to these services, these academies, and we love the claims, right? But we've got to go in there and we've got to remove our ego. And that's the most difficult task anybody's got to do, because it's the task of your whole entire life. If you truly want to live up to your potential, you've got to be willing to drop the bad habits. You've got to be willing to drop the things you think work, but actually just hold you to where you are. You've got to be willing to just say, you know what, I was wrong. And now I can change my perspective. You know, we spoke about earlier where people in a moment of time, that was right. But whatever behaviors you had as a kid, so for instance, I grew up with discipline and great integrity. However, there's some things I learned as a boy. They did not serve me as an adult grown man business owner. And they were part of the reasons why my first business failed, because I wouldn't speak up when my invoices were due, because I think, they would see, they would know that they should pay, because that's how I was brought up, that, you know, if I've got an invoice, I'll pay. And then I soon realized, like, I've got habits and standards that don't serve me to who I am now and where I'm going next. And I think that's part of the double-edged sword, Martin. I don't think it is just, you know, people with bold claims with no integrity and value behind them. I also think people who are in business, they've got, it doesn't happen straight away, but they've got to be in this place where they're willing to say, you know what, I don't have all the answers. And I know a lot of it is to do with my outlook and perspective on making things work, because it isn't always the strategy. A lot of it's the bullshit psychology we carry around with us, thinking that that's how life is. And we wake up, we realize it isn't.
Yeah, 100%. And this is always the issue. And I say, like, mainly what I do these days is I teach. And I say to my groups, the hardest pitch you'll ever make is to your boss or your client. The business owner, in no matter what style of business it is always the brakes on the business. It's all happening within what they're comfortable with, you know. So it's the same. It is the same issue. But all this psychology is fluffy, man. It's not true. It's not true. You know, 100%. I think the biggest problem for businesses is that they, and I don't know what the answer to this is, but they are ego driven, because you have to be an egotist to run a business. Do you know what I mean? So that for me is like, I parted with a client recently because we achieved 300% growth in her business. It was an established industrial type business. So really good in 2 years. But because she hadn't done it, she insisted on telling me every time we spoke that it was only 30%. And
Mm.
it was like, that is. So the ego of, and selling marketing, what I find is you go along for the first meeting, you blow their minds with the opportunity, you get them really excited, you go back for the second meeting, now they know everything about marketing. Do you know what I mean? And they don't fancy this thing, and they don't fancy that thing, and they don't fancy that other thing. So these are my frustrations if you're drawing a graph. What's the point about this? The point about this is that it's managing the client, is the
Expectations.
we're managing their expectations, but also the behaviors. Do you know what I mean? And it's like,
Mm.
you can't, because they can engage you or I, but if they just want to carry on the way they were before we rocked up, it's not going
Mm.
to be very different, except we're going to be there in a mood because we're not having the success that we want, So
Yeah.
I think I want to say this now. I think the blame is, I think it's largely marketing. I don't know if the blame, the reason that people don't
Mm.
grow their businesses, is the business owner, or it's the marketing service provider. I don't know if it's just the case that marketing service providers have just got cynical and they can see that they can grab this amount of money, so they just do that now. And I don't know. So I don't know what the answer is, apart from it sounds to me like you've answered it.
It's a business owner. Like if we, my first business coach in 2008, he would have this rule called above the line. And when you're below the line, you're in blame, excuses, and denial. When you're above the line, you're in a place of ownership, accountability, and responsibility. And if, as a business owner, we have made a shit judgment and hired a wrong service provider, and we didn't cut ties with them soon enough, that's on us.
Yes.
And like, quite often, for instance, let's say a business is with a service provider because they've got this thing about relationships and not wanting to end relationships. Perhaps they've got this thing about not wanting to lose face. And so they stay in these relationships, these business relationships, and, continue to pay, and it's getting worse. But then, the business who are providing the service perhaps believes that things will change. Maybe they do have this belief, like I had a belief, but it just doesn't turn out, with the right outcome. And that's why for me, like, this is part of the education of a business owner. Like, you don't go to school and learn failures over time, because it's not like a taught thing, it's experienced. And so for me, it's always on the business owner. And look, you could say yes, but people know how to manipulate and, really play the system. That's true. It's true in anything, politics, business, society. And this is part of your education as a business owner. This is part of going to the school of hard knocks. And so for me, I went through it. I put £50,000 on credit cards and had debt, and thought I could risk things, and thought I could rescue it. Had to make 3 of my staff redundant. Go through the humiliation, the heartache, the emotional baggage, the real, like, responsibility I felt, even though it wasn't mine. But I had to go through those emotions, and I went through it, and I come out the other side, and I was like, you know what? That's the best experience I've been through my whole life, because I would not have been challenged. I would not have got to the place of understanding actually family first. I would not have got to the place of understanding, when I'm hedging my bets, that I need to have a solid system to hedge it on, not just like a whim and like good feeling. And I think, for me, like, I could be more, soft. I could be more put my arm around the person. But the greatest things happen through when we're challenged and pushed to our limits. And sometimes those limits are, we just wasted £20,000, but you know what? That was your lesson. It was a £20,000 or dollar lesson into an academy. And you realize then, if you give yourself opportunity to look at what went wrong, like, what didn't I ask for? What didn't I check on that I needed in order to go to the next level? And the more I've got coaches over the years, since 2008, when I had my first coach, I realized more and more what I need. And I realized, because of what was missing after our relationship ended with that coach, and I moved on to the next one. And I think that's what it's about, Martin. I don't really think you can put it external, because if we do, we'll never live up to what is possible for us, because we'll always wait for somebody else to come and fix it, or be the reason to blame or create an excuse around.
You should write a book, man.
The next one will be coming next year.
um, okay, so question number 3. What's your
Yeah.
recommendation? If I am a coach or I am a
Mhm.
consultant and I'd like to be generating 15, why is it dollars? Why is it $15,000?
Because like most people get dollars. Like I've got clients in America, I've got clients in Europe, I've got clients in Southeast Asia, as well as obviously the UK. Most people just get dollars. Like if I put dollars out, it just makes sense. If I put pounds out, people are like, do you get more pounds per dollar? And that's the only reason.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a universal currency.
Okay, not because Americans are more susceptible or more ready to invest in this stuff.
No, no, like I've put pounds out before, and then people have been like, "Oh, what's the conversion like?" Because I have American clients, and that's the only reason. So it's not, "Oh, Leon's trying to be an American marketer." It's like for the sake of that, like when people speak to me, I can help them get to 10 to 15,000 pounds. It's just that dollars works for everybody.
Yes, yes. Okay, cool. Right. So the question is, if I am a coach or a consultant, I'd like to be generating $15,000 a month in
Yeah.
60 days. What's your recommendation? What should they do other than pick up the phone and speak to you?
I gave the process away earlier. Yeah. The transformation bridge, you got to understand your niche and you go from transformation bridge to your offer. I give away, I've got worksheets on how to create a no-brainer irresistible offer. It's the method that I call, it's the method I use. And there's a worksheet I give away with a walkthrough video. I've got my 6-week content rhythm on what you need to post on social media and when in order to attract people and leads and prospects and clients. I've then got some other worksheets, and so like if you want me to share the links, Martin, I can share them with you, and they can go onto the podcast as links that people can get as free resources. But the method I explained earlier, it really is about understanding your niche, creating an offer for the niche, creating a message that speaks to the frustrations and fears, and shows them that the wants and aspirations are possible. That's what moves a person, a human being, psychologically. It's only when they can see the upside of what there is to gain, i.e. what they want, that people actually make movements, like make a choice and a decision to inquire, speak to you, buy from you, like if you got things on your checkout or whatever. That's what you need in place. And then the final piece is, if you are a service-based business owner and you sell on the phone, if you're selling anything from $3,000 up to $100,000, then you need a script. And I offer a free script I give away that helps to complete that process, called the Super Qualifier script. So I can give you about 5 different resources people can get for free, just a name and email. Because look, that's what I ask in return for my hard work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. No, definitely
Yeah.
do that. Give me
Mhm.
the links to where they
Yeah,
go to sign up. Um,
sure thing.
are you happy to talk about what it costs to engage you? Because I think I might know
Yeah, I
somebody.
am. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm happy to talk about it. I don't like to speak about prices, and I'll tell you why. I've got nothing to hide. But what happens as a human being when we see a price, we start to have an internal debate with ourselves whether or not we can afford something.
Yeah.
And quite often, as human beings, when we're faced with the difficult decision of going to the next level, we say, you know what, let's wait a bit. Yeah, we all do it, right?
Yes.
And what I've learned about myself is that when I am ready to step up, I always know it's a stretch. And I know it's a stretch because I've stretched now for the past 6 years consistently. Yeah. And every time I've stretched, I've got better results. And at the time, it was difficult. It was difficult. I remember one year I spent £37,000 on coaching, and that was a stretch that year. However, I had 2 consecutive 6-figure months as well as some really good 5-figure months in sales. And that's why I wanted to kind of put that as a precursor, because not everybody's ready for that, Martin.
No.
So to work with me starts at $5,000. Yeah, and that's for a coach who's floating around the 10 to 15k mark inconsistently, but they're ready to make it consistent. After that, I have a different program that I run, and only when you're in a position of consistently hitting 15k a month would you qualify for that program. So I wouldn't discuss the price on that one, because you got to be an A player on the way up, if that makes
Yes,
sense.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. What should people read?
So I loaded up Audible because I knew this question was coming. So I've got 115 titles here. So it depends.
It's just 2. Give us the
Yeah,
2
yeah.
really good ones.
So I'm just going to give you 2 that stand out right now, and have done. The 10x Rule by Grant Cardone. It's a guy I've interviewed. I interviewed Grant back in, I think it was 2015 on my podcast. Um, and that was cool. He agreed after 15 minutes, and the email that I put together took 10 minutes to write. So that was a really good guest. But the 10x rule, it just really speaks about taking more action than we're taking at any current moment, and really buying into it and believing it, because a lot of people don't. They play the game of, oh yeah, this is what I want to create, but then their actions don't relate to what they want to create, if that makes sense. It doesn't match the
Yes.
goal. The latest book, and this is a guy, for me, his wisdom is way greater than his current age. Alex Hormozy, $100 million offers. If you've not followed him on YouTube, I suggest you go listen to this guy. If you can get past his comedic mustache, then just listen to his message. This guy has businesses, him and his wife have businesses that net something like $100 million a year plus. He's 32 and he's got wisdom like I've not experienced in any coaches, that I've come across anyway. He's the real deal. And so his book is $100 million offers. He's currently writing the follow-up book, which is 100 million or something to do with leads anyway, like lead generation. He said he's on his 6th version of it, but it's not ready yet. So, but this guy is legit. I don't know if you've come across him, Martin.
What's his name?
Alex Hormozy.
Alex Hormozy. How do I spell Hormozy?
Hormozi.
Hormozy. I haven't come across him. I've heard the book. I've heard of the book.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and check him out 100%.
I've got the audio book and I've got the actual physical book downstairs, because there was a couple of things, especially around guarantees, that I loved that he shared, that he used on his way up as he grew his businesses. But like just watching and consuming his message, like, this guy is legit.
Fantastic. Excellent. Cool. Right. So that brings us then to the last question, which is who can you throw us under the bus? Throw under the bus. So the way this works best is if it's someone you can introduce me to who might be motivated. How have you enjoyed the experience? Has it been all right?
Yeah, it's been cool. I've really enjoyed having a chat with you, Martin. It's great. I love podcasting, and I love this kind of interaction with people who ask great questions and give the person you're interviewing space to speak. There's a really cool guy, Nate Lindquist, who's an ex-client of mine. And when we were working together, he generated $1.47 million in 6 months of the NBI offer method that I mentioned to you earlier. He's a really cool business owner. He's got a great cause that he also has behind his businesses. And I'd love to introduce you to. He's an American guy.
Fantastic. Cool.
Yeah.
That's good. I need to go that way. I've got an Australian theme happening. I've got a UK theme happening. I need to get across the pond. Is there anyone else you think might be up for this?
There may be. There's one guy, my coach from Australia, Taki Moore. I don't know if you've come across him.
No.
He's I don't even know what words to use him. He's a genius. That's right. And there's one other guy from the UK who is my past life coach / business coach, called Ryan Pinnock. He's a South African guy who lives in the UK. And when it comes to unlocking the things that hold us back, this guy is a genius around those things.
Fantastic. Cool. If you could give me some introductions to those people, that would be first prize. Yeah. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. You're the first. You're from the Black Country, aren't you? You're from Wolves.
I'm from the Black Country, Wolverhampton.
I'm not allowed to call you a Brummie. You're not a Brummie, no. You're the first person from the Black Country. Let's just put it that way that I've spoken to. Man, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, man. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed it too.
Do you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to order a pizza.
Good on you.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll say goodbye now for anyone who might be watching this, and then I'll press the stop button, and then we can say goodbye like normal human beings. How's that?
All right. Take care. Thank you very much.
You're an absolute legend. Thanks, man.